I'm just going to try to go with,
Okay,
the
good.
flow.
So we're now on YouTube. We're now live streaming. So that's so welcome to this March 2022. Whoops. March 2022 TEDxPlattsburgh event. Today we'll talk about women's leadership for peace. In our last event, as you might know, we were at the onset of 2022. We thought at the time that it would be a year with many challenges, but we could never imagine that the level of struggle that would be generated by a war like the one we're all witnessing for some part of the world and are inside this war for the people in Ukraine, essentially. So it was a countdown event at the time, so under the umbrella of TED. It's still a TEDx event, not under the umbrella specifically of Countdown today, but still a global initiative to champion and accelerate solutions to the climate crisis. So that's the big umbrella. But the idea is to also turn ideas into action. So we were already talking about inclusiveness and about impactful actions with diversity and women leadership at the center of our discussions in the last events. But today we'll focus more on peace. One of the Sustainable Development Goals, by the way, SDG 16, an important one, but which is more challenged today, more challenged than ever in a long time. More specifically, we'll have an outstanding panel that will talk about how can we encourage resilient female leadership for peace, and how do we rebuild for the future? So making sure that it is there to last. So I'm co-hosting this event with Dr. Aïssé Bazak, as you know, an award-winning leadership and well-being coach. Hello, Aïssé. We'll be having Renahan Gill, corporate and public affairs, ESG, and sustainable development, and working on public policies in Sao Paulo. And also the country representative for Brazil at the Institute for Economic and Peace. So that's Economics and Peace. We also have Zineb Alemdar, Dean of Business and Administration Science faculty and founder and director as well of Women in Foreign Policy in Turkey. So Dean in Istanbul, and more widely, Director of Women in Foreign Policy Initiative in Turkey. So welcome, Zineb. Nice to have you. I'm also saying that we have the regrets from Aline de Souza, working in legal affairs at the UN. She cannot make it today. She has been called for a last-minute meeting, as there might have been many new meetings this week and the last few weeks at the UN. So let's start. Just before, on the side note, you see what's behind my on the background right now. So this image was one of the image that was highlighted by the Smithsonian photo contest in 2021, so just a few months ago. It shows, it's a picture from a couple of kilometers away from Kyiv in Ukraine, taken just a year and a half ago, end of summer of 2020. It's not only showing, if you see the blue skyline and the yellow of the sunflowers that would represent, well, Ukraine, the flag itself, but also the rest. But it's also showing, you see those tiny flowers that are facing a huge and mighty nuclear power, which we call sun. Okay, so this is a real metaphor of what we're seeing right now in Ukraine. So I just wanted to highlight that, and just the link for the Smithsonian photo, I will make sure it's on the YouTube channel afterwards. I saw that as a real metaphor. So showing unity, showing determination, facing a mighty power in front. That was my short take on this war. I've seen what is happening in the last few weeks, for the last 3 weeks, I would say. The struggle, the horrific, there is no words to explain it. I will just move a bit aside. Whoops, on the other side, you see right here the UN Women as a special fund, and we encourage you to donate to this fund. It was a suggestion from a friend of the TEDxPlattsburgh event, Meral Guzel, which is manager at UN Women, the partnership manager there. Okay, so I've said that we would be starting. Peace is really important, as we all realized, for those who are even not involved directly, like the Ukrainian right now, but we often realize peace is important when we lose it, when it's lost. And as I said, I will not talk more about the very struggle that is faced, that people in Ukraine are facing, which is huge and horrific, as I said. But these unprecedented and challenging times make us worried every day. Everybody around the world is worried on all the sides involved, I'm sure. And even almost every hour now, it's on the news all time. This Ukraine-Russian conflict caused certainly distress, concerns, and sadness, not only for the people, and definitely more than that for the people involved directly, but also for all of us around the world. It's also a conflict that will impact our future. Okay, this has changed some paradigm we were in for the last few years, if not for decades, especially in Europe, because that's the first since the great Second World War, the big Second World War, in terms of countries facing each other in the continental Europe. So the current dire situation is also occurring right in the middle of the International Women's Month. Okay, so today we'll talk about both women and peace, and peace being definitely the other side. So when we have, there is no war, but not only war, violence in general, all the struggle that are attached to the lack of justice. So peace is really broader than that. It's an extreme we're in right now. It shows us as what is, it is so much important, but it's there in so many other countries as well, this struggle for peace or for war in reverse. Peace is part of the SDGs, as I've mentioned earlier, SDG 16, but why is it so important? It's not just the absence of war, as I've mentioned. In fact, it's the first step to fulfill any aspects of the global sustainable development agenda. So peace is a kind of, it's a necessity. It's required for the rest to be able to be achieved in the best way possible. And it's not just me saying that. So many countries that were not able to achieve the Millennium Goals a decade ago, and even more since the early 2000s. So I would say the first generation before the sustainable goals, development goals we're in right now. So those countries, the majority of those who were not able to fulfill their needs, their goals, were tied to conflicts, instabilities, up to wars. So that was one of the key determinants in being able to get closer to achieving the goals, or being very far. I'm not saying that those who were not at war or in conflicts would be able to get them achieved, but they were much closer than those who were in conflict situations and instability. So we cannot hope for sustainable development without peace, without stability, without human rights, without effective governance towards these goals as well. And it's based on rule of laws which are well applied. Okay, we've seen new law appearing, for example, in Russia the last week, which were not really for the same reason I'm just mentioning. So it were was to cut liberty of expressions and stuff like that. So that's not the kind of law we need to see. So proper governance is also important. Yet our world is increasingly divided, not only in countries which are already in conflicts, but even in other countries. I'm Canadian, but just on both sides of the borders near my home, there's two countries which sees also instability, even if they're known as being um, full of liberties. It's division that we see the most right now on so many in so many discussions. So division is also a trigger of what could become even worse. So this is something to be dealing with as well. While goal 16 is based on peace first, it's definitely, but also on justice, and the third item is strong institutions. And in fact, to have strong institutions, you need to have confidence in those institutions. So it's important to involve all stakeholders from top to bottom. Everybody needs to be part of it. So that comes to my other point. So we're all involved in peace creation. It's not just one side of the fence or one, it's everybody, definitely us included. Inclusion, that's the other keyword. Inclusion, and it's coming to the very topic of today, women leadership. Women leadership in so many things, but especially in peace has been proven to be really, really effective. It's not just a wish to have women taking all the space to deserve in peacemaking, but it's because it has been proven effective in so many things. I'm just looking at the numbers I want to show. So there was a study that was showing that I will read it correctly. Substantial inclusion of women in civil society groups in a peace negotiation makes the resulting agreement 64% less likely to fail. So not only women are important in preparing those negotiations and discussions, but 60% more likely not to fail, so to succeed if I take it the other way. So this is important in everything. So that's, it's true that we're talking about negotiations, so it's really far. It starts at every level of those. So definitely that's one thing. And the other point is 35% more likely to be still there, to last more than 15 years. So those discussions, negotiations, agreement towards peace would last longer, 35% more if it's involving women, including women. So this is concrete impact. As I said, it's not just a question of being fair to women, for women to have their fair share of the discussions. It's also because for humanity, it's the thing to do. So this is important. And today we'll talk about different things around that. So while women have, it's known that the gendered impact of conflict is not confined to women. Women are often the most vulnerable in the most vulnerable situations in many countries because of so many things. Sexual violence, also the fact that they need to protect typically their family, while in many countries only men goes to war. We see in Ukraine it's a bit different, so many women went also on the front, but it's but typically what we see is women are suffering more directly from wars, and not only they're suffering more, but they're also involved in so many things from the bottom to not that much on the top, which that's what we would like to see, but from every portion directly from the start. So helping communities to deal with the suffering, helping in the healthcare. So adding to support people that are more vulnerable in their communities, and so many other things. So many studies have shown that in many countries, they are determinant in helping people surviving as well. So But to avoid all these suffering, we need to work from the beginning to make sure we can, whether it's establish peace or whether making this peace last for longer period of time, and making sure that we avoid going into the other extreme, which is war. So in that way, everybody, every person is not affected by this incredible struggle that we see right now in Ukraine, but we're seeing it in so many other places. One thing I wanted to mention as well, on top of those things, so women are important in negotiation. They are also struggling more typically, so because of this gendered impact, but also, and that it has been shown in Afghanistan, not far away from now, so just last year and the year before, women were there sooner to raise the alarm, raise the warnings that there would be something appearing in Afghanistan, like the return of the Taliban. So since in the last 5 years, women groups, women in communities, they were closer to I would call that the field, to the population in general, and they were raising the alarm for years. Indeed, we all saw what happened. The reaction at the top level was too late, essentially. But if we would have listened to those women on the ground, maybe they could have been avoided, and all the years, if not decades, of drawback that Afghanistan has seen just a few months ago. It looks like almost eternity. It was just 6-7 months ago, and now we are in another big war, even bigger. Okay, so that was all for my take. I think discussions on the importance I don't think there is no discussion on the importance of women being involved in war, being already involved because they're struggling, but also involved in avoiding war. Now we'll look at that on the positive side. So making peace, making sure peace is there, making peace is sure peace is there to last as well, and making sure everybody is included in achieving that, ensuring that everybody has a say, not only a say, but also taking action towards peace, because that's a group thing. Peace is not built by one single woman or one single man. Peace is community-based and even bigger than that. So anyway, let's start with that. And I think I say you wanted to have to explain how you see world peace, having world peace in mind, and how you want want us to think about this positive way to approach what we're all facing right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, those are great points. Yeah, everything starts with the peace in mind. And if we think that women are more likely to be less stress tolerant, according to studies, it is more important to understand what is going on. Just I would like to bring a different perspective to this. And since from the start of conflict, how many times we have heard the words conflict, war, threat, and so on? And how many times have we heard the words peace, agreement, calm down? If you compare, we will see that there is a huge gap. And I will share why this huge gap is very important, because Stepan, could you please enable me for sharing screen? Thank you. So this is very important because there are some studies showing the power of using positive words. So I will share my screen now. Okay, share. And you will see. Yes, this is my curiosity hat, just to And I put my curiosity head and had a little research. And this was, just let me start with a simple question. What do you see in these pictures and what is in common? What is the commonality? And being said so, yes, brain is composed of at least 70% of water, and a research by Masaru Emoto was conducted, and he showed that when you speak positive words, the crystals in the water are more homogeneous and harmonious, whereas when you speak the words like hate, war, and other negative words, the crystals are uneven and amorphous. So what to do with, of course, now with our brain? And also there is research showing that when we speak the positive words, or when we are exposed to positive words, actually our prefrontal cortex is activated, and prefrontal cortex, we know that is the center for creativity, negotiation, powerful decisions, and collaboration. And when we speak negative words, according to this research as well, this time amygdala gets activated and prefrontal cortex is shut down. And when it is shut down, as you know, there is no negative, there is no effective decision, negotiation, powerful communication, and high performance. And actually, again, my curiosity had yesterday, I was just looking for some literature, and I found this research from UC Berkeley, and it's brain mapping. So how brain categorizes words. Actually, how when you see and hear words, how your brain categorizes. And according to this research, and also this brain map is online, you will see that violence has a specific category, and then it is categorized differently in the brain. So if I can share, I will show you what it means. So it is a very interesting one, and I think it is very relevant to this topic. This is the pink area. Let's have an example, pink one, violence. And you will see that not only conflict or the other words we are common relate to this classification in brain. Other words are also perceived as violence and war. And what happens when we actually have these words, hear these words, the brain, the chemicals are activated in a very different format when we hear the positive words. So this is maybe we are not aware, but also from a different perspective, as Stefan said, we are in a way responsible for peace creation, because everything in a way starts in the brain and how we perceive and how we progress. So always I believe we have a choice, like we can choose to be in the world of negative words or in the world of positive words where there is creativity, collaboration, peace, and harmony. This is a choice, and I think we need to start working with how we talk, what we talk, and then what our intentions are. So being said so, I would like to give floor to the Renahan. So
thanks, Ayşe. Really great insights on that. It's starting from each and everyone's brain. In fact, we need to use the tools we're having. So Renahan, you can share your screen as well if you'd like.
Great, thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Ayşe. and it's an honor to be here too with Zainab, and I'll be really glad to hear from her all the thoughts that she bringing to us. From my side and from the Institute for Economics and Peace, I want to share with you our last report, The Positive Peace 2022, with some insights and some findings congregated with the Global Peace Index that from this year will be launched on the second semester of this year. But I'm bringing some findings from the last report that was on 2021. Well, we are in this institute dedicated to build a greater understanding of the key drivers of peace, as well as identifying the economic benefits that increase peacefulness. So we are trying to shift the way that people see peace and how peace is attached to the development, to the building of the dignity and everything else that the people needs to have a good life in their territories. So we are around the world. Our headquarters is in Sydney, but we have some offices around the world in important places, strategical places. I respond to the New York office, and I represent the Brazil in terms of a representation to the Institute for Economics and Peace, and working in awareness here with people on the security area and for the general public about how peace could be understood in the new times. So about the Institute, we are around more than 15 years of work. We created the Global Peace Index, the first endeavor to congregate data on peace in the world and analyze it on economic point of view too. We have a lot of presence, not only in terms of research, but on social media too. A lot of people using our data to create researches on academics. And we are a node partner to World Bank, United Nations agencies, OECD, and any multilateral agency that we have around the world. And I'm really glad to work with the Institute for Economics and Peace because we was a good stakeholder and important stakeholder to create the SDG 16 on the Sustainable Development Goals. So, but what is the positive peace? The positive peace compared to the negative peace in terms of an academic view. Negative peace is the absence of violence and fear of violence. But positive peace have another way to understand peace, and that is the attitudes. Understand the attitudes, social attitudes, institutions and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. That is generally positive peace. And what we have before to talk about positive peace directly, I want just to share what is the Global Peace Index, because the Global Peace Index is the base to calculate and to generate insights on the positive peace report. And then we have 15 years of history, 163 countries, and using 23 indicators to define the Global Peace Index. Our last report was 2021. And on Global Peace Index, we have indicators divided on these three pillars, okay? Domestic international conflict, safety and security, and measures of militarization. We use 23 indicators dispersed in these three fields, big fields. And how we created the view on positive peace based on Global Peace Index. We have the actual peace, crime suppression, military, armed conflict. We united this with derived through statistical analysis and data sets, incidents and attitudes, social attitudes with the GPI. And we found the positive peace index and begin to structure this report. For years, we are evolving in this field. The positive peace has some important topics to make it a very huge step for any country. With positive peace, we have higher per capita income. This is some of the findings that institutes are encountered during the years. Higher per capita income associated with countries that have high levels of positive peace, for example, at high level of global in the Global Peace Index. Resilience, better environmental outcomes, or taking care better in terms of climate actions, higher measures of well-being, and better performance on SDGs. This is a very nice insight to have when we analyze the positive peace. Well, this is just a way to see the results on positive peace. In terms of GDP, yes, we have an elevated level of GDP results for countries that are elevated not only on Global Peace Index levels, but positive peace levels too. And in terms of social well-being, countries that are more peaceful and have an elevated level of positive peace index have more well-being correlated with that. Environmental, in terms of environmental scores, the level of climate actions and countries taking care better and people taking care better of their environmental matters are elevated on high positive peace indexes, despite of low positive peace indexes. But positive peace must be understood as a system and how it works. We congregated anything in terms of pillars, 8 pillars: well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resources, free-flow information, good relationships with neighbors, high levels of human capital, acceptance of right of others, low levels of corruption, and sound business environment. So here we have, for example, some findings in terms of this systemic looking. The positive peace provided entry points into system by these pillars. Through stimulating each of the pillars, the whole of the system is stimulated. This is a so and very important point. Systems operate through feedback loops, encoded norms and steady state, but taking care of an important point of view, not through causality. Planning is so important in terms of looking inside systems and outside systems and how any variable are interacting. Positive peace can be used to measure emergent qualities of a system as well as sunsetting qualities. Systems are not static, they have momentum. Positive peace measures the momentum. That's the most important thing that we bring year after year in terms of measuring on positive peace index. And positive peace is an excellent measure of the resilience of a system. And just to make a match with how we are dealing with today, women leadership for peace, yes, reducing levels of inequality in terms of social attitude is so important to stimulate the system to have a more resilient system as a whole. So participating of women, both men, both all the races, both any group is so important. In terms of rankings and changes, this is positive peace. This is the 8th year, 163 countries, both correlated as well as we have in the Global Peace Index, 24 indicators for positive peace report. all developed by the Institute for Economics and Peace, derived, and used 25,000 data sets, indexes, and surveys. It's a huge work. And we mapped all of this in this snapshot. We have all the information delivered in our platforms, all free. And I invited you to visit soon. In terms of key findings, positive peace improved 2.4% globally in the past decade. This is an important measure, but we need to be critical about that. 126 countries became more peaceful, but 37 deteriorated on the last year to now. Improvements were driven by free flow of information. Our information data sets are improving year after year. Digitalization are going through this high level of the free flowing of information, internet, and anything related to that. Good relations with neighbors and equitable distribution of resources. So things are going good, but must be better than that to have a great place to live and more well-being all around the world. We know that. Deteriorations were driven by changes in the social attitudes domain, especially, but we have two low levels of corruption pillar. Corruption still high. The key findings are Syria and Libya had largest deteriorations. Still, North America was the only region to deteriorate. We have a lot of civil arrests and a lot of things are occurring there in terms of militarization spend, for example. Uzbekistan and Georgia had the largest improvements. Asia Pacific had the largest regional improvement. Europe remains the most peaceful region, but deteriorated on 4 pillars. On positive peace, this is the most peaceful countries in our new report. Sweden, Denmark, and Finland and Norway still always on the high level. Denmark just going down 1 step, but this is the configuration that we have year after year, not changing so much. But in terms of deterioration, we have important countries that if we look around the world, we have a lot of conflicts occurring in all of these countries. Civil wars and a high level of corruption, a bad rule of law implemented in these countries, and so on. This changes, so social attitudes must be changed during the years. And just to realize the level of corruption compared with the other pillars. This is the most peaceful and the last peaceful. Venezuela, our neighbor, are going down and down after years. Just to finish my points, in terms of positive peace benefits, we have stronger resilience and adaptability, better environmental outcomes, higher measure of well-being, better performance development goals, higher per capita income, and better business environment. That is so good. Okay, I'm just want to go right after this slide and inviting you to see our last book too, Peace in the Age of Chaos. Okay, and inviting especially all of you to visit our platforms and social media. Stefan and Izzy, I'll be here with you. Thank you for this opportunity to share these thoughts, and let's go forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Renan, for this great presentation and showing us how it's materialized around the world. We all need to improve this peace index, but as you mentioned, some countries are in a worse position than others. A great insight on that front. So we'll now go back into I would call that a panel like discussion, and I will just send a couple of questions for the discussions, and any of you can jump in. And at the end, I will ask you for a key message you want to let to the audience. But first, we had great presentation from Aisha talking about where it starts from the brain. Now we have our each individual capacity to influence our mindset, and then Anan explained us how it materialized in the country, so around the globe. So, but understanding that why we need inclusive and resilient and calm-minded, as Aisha talked about, leaders. Now, can you give us some insights on why women would be a great fit to become those leaders? So anybody can jump in on this.
Well, maybe I can jump in, and maybe if you would let me, I would like to actually insert a couple of points to both Aisha's and Renahan's comments.
Absolutely.
One of them is, you know, when Aisha told me that, you know, that she was going to talk about, you know, the language. It's what we do as feminist international relations scholars is basically ask the main question of international relations, which is how to stop war in a different way, how to create peace. So this is what actually distinguishes you know, scholars who are not following the traditional international relations theory. So this language, the difference of language, and you know, how to, instead of saying how to stop something, how to create something, is actually going straight along the lines of what Renahan also said, the positive piece and the negative piece as well. So another thing that we definitely look at is also the language, you know, and you actually talked about this a little bit, Stefan, at the very beginning. You know, what happens at the conflict table right after the conflict? Who sits on those peace tables? Well, the sides who have just, you know, shot at each other. So if you do not include there some women who have not been involved in the fighting, for example, or any type of civil society organization, by the way, of course, you know, these guys who have just shot each other are not going to be going for a good peace agreement right away. So that is why we need mediators, and this is why we need people who are, you know, sound and safe, who with sound and safe minds, and who would actually like to pursue peace. So this is why we need to include women in those peace tables as well. And there's dearth of research about what women contribute to women peace tables, which is one of the resources you cited about the UN's, you know, 15th year book. So I wanted to you know, throw these in the mix right away, but also one other reason why we are following for positive peace in international relations is the fact that it's actually, I mean, now of course we are in a, you know, situation of war, but you know, we were not thinking. I mean, by the way, it's not the. I mean, let me be the you know, bad professor here. And we had the war in Yugoslavia in Europe. I mean, that was a war. So let's please remember that. You know, we had a big war in the middle of the European continent just, you know, 30 years ago. So please, let's not forget that. But what happens is, we all thought that, you know, there was not going to be another ground war that we call, you know, the territorial, you know, annexation type of thing, or territorial, not annexation, but, you know, basically going in one country and bombing it. But so what we were looking for, we were researching, was, you know, what are the signs of civil war? And we were looking at the numbers of, for example, violence against women. And we have found out, and there's a lot of research on you know, how once violence against women is actually widespread in a country, it becomes belligerent. So, people get used to solving conflicts with force and violence. So, and the difference between, the last 20 countries which have the lowest gender gaps in the OECD's gender gap indexes, 17 of them have actually been through some type of conflict in the past 20 years. So now it actually provides us a data that gender gap, gender inequality actually tells us about a country and whether it's going to go to conflict or not. So we are not looking at the borders anymore. We're not looking at the trade wars anymore, but we are literally looking at what's the difference between what's the deal with gender equality in a particular country. And all the countries Renahan has actually shown, we know that none of them actually has great indexes on gender equality. So, and I read Kilela's book, so so I would love to give some feedback later on. And they don't actually include a lot of women's data in their gender segregated data in there. Which is something that we should fill in. But that's another point. So coming back to your question, Stefan, about why do we need women, and why do we need calm-minded, resilient people in peace tables or peacemaking, or at the top of the countries, so that in foreign ministries, so that they would actually look for diplomacy and not for fight. Research has shown that women are actually more prone to finding long-term solutions to problems. So, so what we do, it's not that women do not go to war, by the way. Like I'm not, one of those people who think that women are very peaceful. We all have in our brains that, oh, we live in this, wonderful world. Every woman is different. So we have to actually pay attention to that as well, that we cannot essentialize any gender. We have, very, sensitive men, and we have very, unsensitive women. So it's not like we cannot essentialize any type of gender. But on the other hand, research has shown that even women who, for example, vote for war, for international intervention, for example, in the United States Senate, women who voted for the Iraqi war, let's say, they came back, and after the war, they introduced bills that was looking at how to protect the orphans, how to improve the education of the people who were left behind, how to heal the wounded, what to do with the retirement funds. And this is not because women are actually, better at thinking about it's not that, women are more, romantic or, like have pink brains or anything, but women actually think about these things because it's our experience. We look after the family. And even if we don't have a family, we look after the elders, we look after the wounded. It's true, we look after the disabled. That's kind of, the system is built that way. So we are the caretakers. And not that we want to, by the way, but, the system has actually, enforced that upon us. So this is why women actually make long-term choices. So we need women in those peacekeepers, in those peace tables, as you said, Stefan, so that the probability of re-emergence of a conflict actually gets closer to zero when there are 35% of women negotiators on the table. Or another thing that I think why we should include women, and we have seen many examples in Burundi, in Liberia, in many other, in Rwanda, women actually, when men tend to stall the peace process, in Liberia this actually happened, when men actually tried to stall the peace process, women actually went in front of the door of the room where the peace agreement was doing, and they sat there and they told the guys, hey, you have to make this, you have to finish this peace agreement. We need some solutions right away. So so it's very important to include women in the peace tables, and get a women's perspective as well. Another thing that I would also add, and I will stop there so that I will give time to my colleagues, is again, coming from their experience, women bring to the peace table different things, different types of negotiations. For example, after the wars, men sit down at the peace table and try to, draw a border. And they draw the border. If you look at maps of Africa, you will see how the borders are crossed. I mean, what happened in Afghanistan was one of the reasons why the borders were that way. But women know where things are. Women know where to feed the family, where to get the water from. Women have the local knowledge that those big heads on the peace table who have just fought with some other person do not really know. So in order to end, I mean, we talked about inclusion and diversity at the very beginning. You mentioned inclusion and diversity at the very beginning. I mean, we need to have those, that local knowledge that comes from women's experiences included in those, peace agreements and any type of negotiation. So that we can actually have like some type of a good solution that will actually last. So I guess I can stop here for now.
Great insights, Zeynep. Really, absolutely relevant. So yes, the idea is not to exclude one gender or compare one or no. It's inclusiveness, as you said, diversity and a new perspective. Perspectives, I should say, in fact, as you said, and another view that allows new solutions to pop up and to materialize and to last, as you said. So great insight. Thanks for that. I think, Renan, you wanted to add your comment to the question. I saw your hand raised earlier.
No, I'm actually thanking Zeynep for the insights, and that's a good point. And it's an important thing in a system that have a premise on positive peace, for example, is to take out any bias, negative bias, in terms of this shallow comparison between, for example, genders and so on. So it's so important what Zeynep said. I just want to tell this. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Renan. Other comments, other point on that front? Oh, I see. I think you're on mute still.
Okay, thank you. I can have few sentences just from the research. We know that women are higher on scores of emotional intelligence in terms of self-awareness, interpersonal relations, empathy. That doesn't mean that they are better than men, but they have some skills that are better than men. On the other hand, men, let's say, that are better at self-regard, stress tolerance, and assertiveness. So, however, when we look at the percentage of women leaders are all around the world, only 30%, and it gets worse. Only 13% of negotiators for peace are women, and only six without zero, 6% of mediators for conflict are women. So there is no balance, and we know from all fields, all sciences, if there is no balance, there is no peace. So I think that is one of the main challenges, also maybe solutions as well.
Absolutely. This is part of the problem, but also part of the solution to solve it. So we need to change this this wrongful ratio, which is definitely unbalanced. So making it more equity in the roles. Okay, so let's go to the second question. So that goes into the same direction. So how do we encourage resilient female leaders, or leadership towards peace? How do we encourage that? Not necessarily just from on encouraging the women, but encouraging also the the systems themselves to allow the space required for women to be involved for the different reasons we just heard. So many good reasons. So how do we anchor? So that's the second question. Don't know who wants to start with a comment or an answer or whatever on this.
And I give you the floor first. I just have a few words after.
Good. Thank you. Well, I mean, Aisha's comment about the, you know, there are only 24 countries in the world which have, you know, female leaders, you know, presidents or prime ministers. And I mean, most of them in Europe, but let's look at Europe, and they are, you know, increasing their defense, defense and military spending because, you know, in the face of an autocrat. So, so this is tough. You know, getting women on the top and hoping that, you know, as long as the system is this way, as long as the system is defined in this way of, you know, as if it's a zero-sum game. And this is, of course, you know, linked to the you know, the wild capitalism, the disparity of income. I mean, I'm sure Renahan's you know, research has also shown these as well. I mean, the craziness of the city states, you know, like the loss of the localities and things. So these are very important in terms of, you know, thinking about how to change the system and the way that we think about international relations as well. But in order to encourage the existing women who are, you know, who would like to become politicians or leaders, I mean, there are a couple of very, very simple things. One of them is supporting women. And this is not only for women to support each other, but also for men to support women's leadership as well. And one of the things that I was just in Antalya Diplomacy Forum, and we were doing a panel of women empower humanity, and I mean, we had, you know, the African Union, where, you know, African women have done great things, amazing things about peace in the continent as well, and development. But what we were talking about, you know, how to convince men in a rational way, in a very material way, not in, you know, this is because, you know, oh, equality is good and justice is wonderful, you know, we have the, you know, it's the world is going to be a nicer place if we include women type of way. But, you know, research has shown that, especially, like, there's a lot of work on this. I mean, McKinsey has been doing these amazing studies. There's that for companies, they've looked at companies for over 13 years, and companies that have, you know, at the top management positions that has women, I mean, at least 3 women, have fared much better, 48% more beneficial than the companies that didn't. So, you know, diversity, it matters. Diversity, it counts. Diversity is less expensive. So these are the things. I mean, when we are supporting women, and when we are trying to get the men who are, you know, supporters of women, you know, to the place where we would like the world to be, we would need to make these, you know, very material, you know, data-oriented orientation, that diversity matters, and it benefits everyone. So that's one. Another thing that we can do to, of course, you know, enforce women's leadership is finance. I mean, why do you think there are not enough women politicians in you know, in politics? I mean, politics is about the money, it's about the financing, and women usually do not have access to finances as men do. So, you know, the political parties, the governments, the international development agencies, they should create, you know, continuous support to women who would like to get into the leadership positions. That's one other, you know, very important thing. And there are, I mean, I'm very hopeful actually for the younger generation, because they do not really care about gender this much. I mean, they're much more fluid. I mean, there are a lot of different studies, and they're not, hopefully they are raised by us, so they're not as rigid as us in terms of the gender roles. But what they also need is mentorship. and not mentorship in terms of a hierarchical way of, I know this and I teach you, but to learn from them, and which, a lot of coaches and leadership coaches, actually, I'm sure they have been already doing this. And these types of interactions, I mean, thanks to the technology and many international organizations and platforms like this, actually encourage this. And so we can encourage women, by finding, financial support for them if they would like to get involved in politics and be involved in leadership. We can actually get everyone to support each other by showing how support is actually beneficial for all humanity.
This is a great point. Definitely there's a need for support. As you said, for some or many, financial support is definitely a key thing. But as you said, we can be really hopeful with the new generation coming up. But yes, they would need. I like the idea of mentorship, coaching, and supporting them while they're going towards that. So, but as you already said, they already have been. They're not having the paradigm that we've seen in the former generation, ours and preceding one. So they're kind of free of that, but they need support anyway. So a key thing, a key driver. Other comments? I think Renahan, you wanted to
Oh yeah,
to it.
But just a few words. Zainab told everything. In my point of view, when we don't have, for example, in a lot of countries, we don't have a good basic education in environment with secure workplaces, for example. We need to work beside all of the system with a huge amount of capacity building, not just push women through this new position, but creating this pathway, a solid pathway with them. This is so important. Zainab told about mentorship. Mentoring is so important. Not women being mentoring by women. A role model is so important too, but men mentoring women in a transparent, unconditional way, looking for the future of development together. This is a very important point. And capacity building is this. For example, build a strategy around business and human rights. Private sector must give hands with society to do this thing. I see some gaps, huge gaps on private sector that we must fulfill to put a lot of these things in track, because workplaces are so important to the development of all people, young people, women, and so we need to prepare this environment first before have a well-structured educational system that provides since the beginning all of this fairness environment for all of us. I have just these points. Thank you.
Great addition to Zainab's comment. Thanks, Renahan. Aisha, do you want to add something on that front, or we can?
Yeah, I would like to, if I may, just share some points through what may be one of the practical and science-based solutions. One of the solutions, as I know about this, and I will share later, you know about this. I think if I don't share, it will not be fair. So I believe that is a gift. So as we believe as positive, intelligent coaches, we need to share this gift. So I will share this, but through a shared screen and a little bit story about that, what is going on.
Nice, go ahead. So, okay, you're sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And yeah, just arranging. And now my, you can see now my curiosity, from curiosity hat to my passionate hat, I'm jumping. And first, before moving on, I would like to talk very simply what is resilient leadership, because there's so much or so many variety of definitions, starting from navigation through challenges, coping with changes, adaptation, so wide. Actually, through evidence and my observation, the resilient leadership is a whole of 3 points, and we need to think about like a body. So it's a whole, starting with mind, heart, and nervous system, connecting mind and heart. What do I mean by this metaphor is the brain is what resilient leaders do, and who they are in reality. I mean, how do they emotionally behave, and how do they connect? I'm not going into details, but what they do is from the perspective of visionary, purposeful acts, and who they are, what is their mindset, and this is growth mindset they have, and in between to the connecting part is their emotional and physical strength. So this is about resilient leadership. And when we talk about this, sometimes some people think, oh, calm-minded and resilience, because resilience is usually resonating with challenges, strength, and it may sometimes a little bit sound contradictory. And however, the core foundation of resilient leadership is a calm mind. As Dalai Lama says, we can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. And also by science, we know that peace has a high vibrating energy that affects the others. This is another discussion. And when I say that, oh, people sometimes say that a calm-minded resilience, so you are expecting us to have Jedi powers. Yes, I'm expecting you to have Jedi powers, which is possible. And it is not from an alien or superpowers, but it is our natural powers. And before sharing what is it about, I will share a very short story. And in 2015, just I was walking behind the doors in prison. And then I arrived to the training room, and just I organized the room, and the prisoners arrived. And they were looking downwards and they were miserable. And I said that, hello guys, I'm Ayşe Başak. I'm a leadership development and well-being coach. However, my professional identity and your past is behind that door. Today, starting from today, we will start building the future you want. And we will identify the challenges. Yes, there will be challenges, but we will together find the solutions on the way. So who is in with me? And these guys started to look at me, and they raised hands with a glimpse of smile. And as you may guess, this was a resilient leadership journey for me, as I was the female leader training prisoners to become coaches so that they will coach people for positive change. So it's a tough journey. So what I have learned through this journey is the power of calm mindset, especially if you are working in a very tough environment. So you need to be very calm. And then all creativity, powerful connection comes and fills the gap. And also through the training, I also shared this approach. And then one of the most powerful approaches I used, and then I showed by studies, was telling these guys all their negative mind chatter, all negative thoughts were leading to stress, aggression, violence, and whatever negative things are in their life. And they have a choice. They have a choice to transform from negative to positive. And there are tools, and they can design the life they want through these empowering beliefs. So, long story short, in 2020, I had the privilege of being trained as a positive intelligence coach. And the beauty of this is it is practical and it is evidence-based. So, and it is very powerful. And this research is, of course, I need to refer to the founder. It is the research by a Stanford University lecturer, Shirzad Shamin, and this research has been conducted among 500,000 people globally. And the results are showing one direction. Whenever you train your mind, increase your mental fitness, then you become very powerful in 3 dimensions: success, happiness in your life, and powerful communication. So all in one. And there are 4 sciences involved in it, but I'm not going into detail because that is not our core. But what basically done is just building up new positive neuro pathways so people can think positively, more creatively, more solution-oriented, and they can find out ways how to powerfully connect with each other and how to have more peace in their lives as well. So, and we are in a way killing the old negative neuro pathways. So this is what is being done. And this is just focusing on mental muscles very shortly, going deep into the root causes. It's one universal operating system. And as I'm a researcher over the 20 years, if I include my PhD, I always look for, is there an evidence? Is that really successfully proven? Yes, it is. So in my eyes, it is ticking all the boxes. But what we do, and I will share how it is effective in conflict management at macro level in terms of peace negotiations, or as Renehan mentioned, and also Zeynep mentioned, these workplaces, having peaceful workplaces, why this system operates very well. For example, the first stage is becoming self-aware of negative thoughts, and second stage is stopping and then doing some special positive intelligence repetitions, and then moving to the stage. Let's say that very shortly, an example, you are going to a very stressful meeting, and in your mind, most probably the conversation may like this: oh, now my boss will going to come challenge me like that, and he never supports me, or I'm a failure, I will not success. Oh, what I'm going to do? Oh, there are many conflicts. Or if in peace negotiation, that side is blah, blah, and then maybe there will be no negotiation. So what we are supposed to do? Think about all the negative conversation you can have in your mind when you are going to a meeting. And these conversations, unfortunately, 80% happen subconsciously, and we are not aware. So through training and coaching, we become aware of those voices. But when we become aware, let's say before the meeting, we stop, we do the exercises, very practical, 2 minutes, and then we say that, okay, if there was a challenge in this meeting, what would be the perspective of that person? So how can I negotiate? What will be my perspective? How can make it work for both of us? Win-win, positive. And if you are during the meeting, get stressed, overwhelmed, you are doing this positive intelligence exercises, practically open eyes. It's not meditation, I'm underlining. And then you just switch your brain to the positive mode. And then when you shift your mode to the positive, it's like Aikido, you are just reversing the energy of the other side if he or she is negative. And then you are creating an environment of positive energy. Positive energy is vibrating and contagious. So in a way, it is more harmonious, productive, and efficient way of working. Of course, this is not the whole story. I'm not going into details, but of course, everybody has unique challenges on the way to have growth mindset, to think positively, to be a good negotiator, to be happy, and so on. And what we do is we just identify what is the main challenge on the way, because there are 10 different saboteurs like hyperachiever, controller, and also stickler, and so on. Because let's think about very shortly, if you are a controller and trying to control every outcome, and the other side is the controller and try to control everything, you will be like this. So there will be no negotiation. So in a way, it's the fight of saboteurs. So rather than that, we move to the positive mindset, and then we just use the power of sage. So in brief, there is a way. This is one of the most effective ways. And the most important thing we can take out is, I think, most courageous things we can do for peace is to identify who we are, really identify our unique powers, positive growth mindset and its power, and then according to those strengths, determine our destination, and then just start to move forward on that direction. And it is unlocking and maximizing your true essence and superpowers. This is from the museum, by the way. And it is about rewriting your story for the greater good. So this is very important. And I think this all resonates with what Zeynep taught and Renehan taught, especially peace related with mental well-being and resilience and high levels of human capital. And finally, my last words, I don't want to take your so much time. How about, let's say that if you can use your mental, emotional energy more effectively, you become a better collaborator, you increase your happiness while you are managing your stress better, and improve self-confidence, and also better at conflict management, all in one place. Is this possible? Yes, this is possible, and we can become better peace negotiators. We can become calm-minded self-leaders. And this is evidence how meditation enlarges prefrontal cortex, peacemaker cortex, part of brain. And it is, this training is, for example, much more deeper. So it is possible. It is all, I believe, dependent on us, which side we choose. Do we choose to live with our, we call judges, negative voices, and to be controlled by that? Or do we choose to grow by our sage powers for the greater good? So, and being said, so I'm giving floor to the Stefan, because Stefan took the courageous act, and also he was just, thanks to him, he just, he was a coachee on this program. Stefan, floor is yours.
Thanks very much for that. And yes, I'm using this. I was a coachee, as you said, and I'm still practicing, improving it every day. That's definitely a great approach, and I see all the advantages on the peace side, and in our everyday life as well. So it's just a powerful tool to use for everybody. So anyway, great presentation, and I think many around this virtual table will think that you should explain that to so many leaders around the world. That would help for sure. So we're getting closer to the end. And as I've told you at the beginning, I would have liked to let our guests, our outstanding guests, just give us the key message they see, essentially towards how we can rebuild for the future. But always thinking of the peace and the role, women's role in that future. So key message from any of you, the three of you. So just let me know if you want to give your insights for the audience. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, from my side, I just want to tell, choose peace, choose dialogue, choose inclusiveness, choose respect each other, choose wise solutions, systemic solutions, choose all the people on at the table, on the board, together, deciding nowadays the future together, because we are all here living together. The decision must be made together. So I think that that's the huge gap that we must and we should still and we must and should fulfill from now to the future. Thank you so much for this opportunity and this great conversation.
Thank you as well, Renan. It's a great keyword to close on. So together, really inclusive. That's one of the great inclusive word. Okay, so someone else want to jump in?
I can jump in if
go ahead.
I will first, and I'm actually inspired by this session for this for this message. I mean, it's wonderful to make these unlikely connections. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, I'm an IR professor who works on peace, women at peace tables, negotiation, and getting the insight from Ayşe in terms of this, how this coaching works, how this, positive, what was it? Positive psychology, positive intelligence works. I mean, these are so important. So I think my key message would be to don't be afraid to make these unlikely connections. Get into if we are promoting diversity, get into these diverse tables and talk to people and learn from them. And so I think that's very, very important in terms of us understanding each other, and also improving our disciplines by doing this interdisciplinary thing, just learning from each other and actually improving our own researches. And another thing, which is kind of related to this, but because this is something that I see in a lot of people, and especially about, this has been the Women's Month, so the 8th of March. So, I've been speaking at many different places. And I was always asked the question about, how to handle competition. And one of the ways that especially not only young people, but, like everybody is struggling with, is actually how to, especially women are struggling with, is actually how to handle competition. Even amongst the women, or amongst men and women. So just knowing that competition is not particularly a bad thing, and it can be done in a in an interdisciplinary way. It can be you can learn from each other type of thing, and it can actually motivate you. Is, I think, a good message to if there are any people out there listening to us. I think that will be a good message to say, because we as women, we are not really grown up in the football fields playing soccer usually. Like guys play soccer in the field, and they get beaten up, and the next day they go to the soccer field and then they play again. So they with the people who just beat them. Whereas women, we set the house. So we are not really used to that competition when we are growing up. We do not socialize that. And that becomes a big problem once, we are trying to support each other. So in terms of solidarity, I think, we need to, not be really afraid of competition, but take it as a way of, and maybe this is a way of, positive intelligence, take it as a way that it actually improves us. And I would like, Ayşe and Stefan to really train all the world leaders nowadays. So that will be my message.
Yes, we definitely agree on that. And you're right. That's that competition mindset is not necessarily the natural way to see things. But with your example of football, I see another way to approach it. Yes, there is a competition between teams in football, but what happens in a real good football team is collaboration within the team. So women are good at developing collaboration. So if we take it the other way and we'll talk about collaboration, then it's complementary. It's no more just the competing discussion points or arguments. We're finding collaboration. And what I say explained is that there's full of tools to accelerate these collaborations. So exploring, navigating. I'm just throwing keywords, but this is to get out of the box that we're stuck in sometimes. So anyway, great comment on that. Ayşe, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, it's a privilege to be in this panel, so it's great insight, so thank you. Yeah, about competition, I can maybe say, yeah, I agree that women are usually feeling competitive, but what I learned when I joined this positive intelligence training program, actually one program, but we are around more than 10,000 coaches taking this training, and we don't feel competitive to each other. Oh, you are taking my clients. Oh, you are taking my space. Oh, no, because what we learn is everybody has his or her true essence and unique things that he or she can bring to the table. So that is what we are learning, we are experiencing. We are still not the black belt as called by Shirzad. We are still not black belt, but we are learning, but we are very open. So yeah, I agree with Zeynep's comment. I think women, especially women, because I know from my experience, needs to learn how to be collaborative rather than competitive. And another point is, maybe we need to, this is my personal perspective, we need to include oneness into our big pictures, and we need to integrate we language rather than me language when we think about this achieving bigger picture. So thank you.
Great insights. We're already an hour and a half in the making of this. So I will just briefly conclude first by thanking all of you on this virtual table, this panel, great panel, and all the people, the attendees that are listening to us live, but also those who would be listening later on, all invited to re-listen it as much as you want. I just want to close on one thing. So we came with some exchanges, discussions, and I will use an old quote, which was used by Martin Luther King a couple of decades ago in 1964. Even if we see a big struggle in the world in many countries, one of which we see more on TV right now, but definitely the struggle because of conflicts is, and as you said, Zeynep, even in Europe, there was, like in Sarajevo and around in Yugoslavia. The difference right now, that it might be tiny or bigger for some, is that these are two countries fighting like without the border. So rather than internal whatever groups, tribe, religion groups that are fighting inside a country, now we have two big entities fighting. So this is a big struggle for, and this has changed the paradigm we all have just a few months ago. But what Martin Luther King said, and it was taken from a quote from 1853, so it's something the worlds have heard for 170 years, is that the arc of moral universe is long, and sometimes we think it's going towards the wrong way. but it bends towards justice. That's the key thing here. And the tools we discussed today, the way we could let more space for women's leadership in these tools, it's to accelerate this bending towards justice. That's the idea. We don't need to wait for centuries. If we act now, if we take action now, if we add to the diversity of the viewpoints, to the walks of life, to the background, better gender equality as well in the decision making at all levels, from bottom to top, I think we can accelerate this trend towards the good side. But we need to start right now. And we have many tools. Some of them we've talked about today. So thank you very much. And it's an invitation for the next few events we'll have in the coming months. But thank you for this very much.
Thank you.